Throughout my adult life, my focus has been on making the world a more beautiful place. Initially, I pursued this goal as a hairstylist, working on the external appearance of individuals to make them feel more beautiful. However, I wanted more, so I began to shift my focus to helping people make better choices and achieve greater beauty from within. As a transformational life coach, I specialize in helping you identify and change the limiting beliefs that may be holding you back. Join me each week as we discuss, interview, teach, and explore the fundamental principles of healthy relationships. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Louisa. In today's episode of Conscious Conversations with Louisa, I'm speaking with Phillip Agrios.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have this opportunity to introduce Phillip Agrios to you guys because I met him at Secret Knock. It's no longer a secret. Now everybody knows exactly where we met. So everyone in here is an entrepreneur. Everyone is in business and we're all pretty self-aware. And with that being said, after getting on a call with you, I got introduced to something I had never been exposed to before. So I really wanted to share you with everyone else. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and share with us who you are, what you do, and how we can all grow from this experience.
Yeah, as soon as I figure that out, I'll let you know. No, hi, everybody. Phil Agrios. I'm from New Jersey. I used to be a chiropractor and a functional medicine practitioner. My specialty was thyroid and autoimmune disease. And during my 35 years of practice, way back when, I used to try to figure out, why is my practice not doing the way I know it could be, or what's going on with my kids or my patients? Why are they not doing what I'm asking them to do? And so many things. And I found myself one day on this journey. I woke up one morning and it was pitch dark, dead silence. You know how you're awake, like someone infused 5 Red Bulls in you, and you're like, I can clean my house not only once but twice in an hour. So I was up. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go do some work. So I'm in my office and I'm going through my drawers and I find my old goals of 5 years before. Anybody ever have that before? You find your old goals, right? You get a little excited. You're like, yeah, and I'm reading it. I get down to the last one and I didn't achieve one of them. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I felt like really horrible. I felt depressed. I was just sitting there. And what's interesting about sitting in silence and darkness for a while, it kind of makes you go deeper. And something just deeply said to me, you're not being taught something. And I found myself on this journey, didn't ask for it, just found myself on this journey. It's been an interesting journey. And during the process of going through a lot of different experiences, I went through financial ruin a few times, a horrific divorce. My father, when I was on disability, I had my 15-year-old practice at the time and I had to close it. I had medical doctors and all that. And I closed it because I was on disability. I was told I would never practice again. During that process, one of my daughters almost committed suicide. They said in 10 minutes later, she would have been dead. During the process, my father had brain cancer. And then 7 months later, he passed. And then I became the primary caretaker of my mom for 7 years till she passed. And I can continue going on and on and on, but it was all good because I have no regret, because I would not be standing here in front of you great people if I didn't go through it, because I would never discover what I discovered. And what I was able to find was that a trait that we're born with that doesn't undermine us, but actually protects us. And I called it the inborn sabotaging trait. So what it does is it protects us from the very success that we seek, because that success subconsciously, if we actually achieved it, would be more painful, so that we never get to that point. And when I first found it, I'm like, there's no way. So I went out to try to disprove it because I thought it was too simple. And over 30 years of thousands and thousands of people, I couldn't. And I actually found a way to switch it off instantly, and it works 100% of the time. Now, again, I said I'm from Jersey, right? Joe's from Brooklyn, right? And Dordina is from New York and New Jersey. You say this works 100% of the time, we're going to say BS. So I knew that. And my reputation being really important to me, I went out to try to disprove that and couldn't. And even to this day, whether you're a multi-billionaire or you're a child, everybody has this trait, and we know how to switch it off instantly. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love your story, and you had me then and you have me now. I am blown away with, even yesterday I'm a director saboteur. So, and I love how you said you attract them because yes, I'm right there. So with being a director saboteur, why don't you talk a little about each saboteur, and then we can all share about what our answers were.
Yeah. So basically, what we found that there is actually 3 traits that actually make up who we are. And we call it the director trait. Maybe want to write that down, is the director trait, the supplier trait, and the communicator trait. So the director, supplier, and communicator trait. And they make up who we are. Because everything that we do, we direct, we supply, and we connect and communicate. Nothing else that we do when we go down to the simplest of terms. When I looked at that, and I realized that there were actually 3 traits that these three positions, these traits fall under. And we call it the dominant trait, the mediator trait, and the saboteur. And do that again. And I do it, as you can see, thank goodness for Zoom. It's like a seesaw effect. So on top here is your dominant trait. Then in the middle, the fulcrum is the mediator trait. And then on the bottom is the saboteur. And when you find out that there are certain places that these 3 traits are placed in, that there are only really 3 saboteurs in the world. Out of 8 billion people, there are only 3 saboteurs. And your dominant trait is your superpower. That's your go-to. That's like, that's your person that you go to when you're under stress. And that's what that one does. Now, what we found is that superpower actually can cause more saboteur because you're using it more often than using the other 2 traits. And when we looked at this, I realized that there's only really 6 sequences of human behavior. So there's really only 6 people in the world. So those of you who here are speakers, do podcasts and all that. So when you're on stage, whether it's 50 people or 1,000 people, you're really only talking to 6 people. So imagine that, where now if you're selling from stage or you're trying to impact people, knowing each of the 6 sequences in your speech, you can tap into each and every one of them, which then you can tap into the entire stage instead of really talking in general. So you actually can sell more from stage knowing that as well. So this is what we call the personality stress sequence. I'm going to write that down. Personality stress sequence. So let me give you an example. Anybody here that knows anybody that talks themselves out of the sale, right? Talks a lot. Okay. So Louisa, we're going to pick on you. So basically what happens is that your dominant trait, you are a phenomenal communicator. You love to connect, right? And one of the things we find out is that your dominant trait is why you're here on earth. So you actually can find out why you're actually here based on your dominant trait. But you love to connect to people, but then you like to take something that's not working well, disconnect it, and then reconnect it so it works well. Is that correct?
Definitely.
Now, we've never talked about this, right? So once I know your sequence, I can tell you everything about you and never meet you. If you had a significant other, I could ask you a couple of questions, ascertain their sequence, and tell you everything about them. And then I'll tell you how you two interact and never ask a question. That's how much of a science we have this down. So once you have the sequence, so now Louisa's in front of somebody and she's talking, she can sell very well if she is balanced between all 3 traits. But many times she may overly talk. We call it vomiting. I call it vomiting talk. It's like, let me try. Because she wants to help. She's trying to get things done. She starts here. She's over here. She's over there. She's trying to get this to them. And the people are like, oh my God, if I work with her, I'm going to be more overwhelmed. So I'm going to back out, all subconsciously. So what's happening is now you're giving too much information. That sound a little bit like you?
Are you in my head?
Yes. So now what? Now, if you had a sales manager, and I've talked to many sales managers, because I actually have a workshop we called the Explosive Sales Blueprint, how to get them to say yes before you even ask for the sale. So when I ask sales managers, what would you do with somebody like that? The majority of them will say is that they need communication training, right? And I go, No, that's the last thing they do. They're phenomenal communicators. The reason why they're over communicating is not because of the communication trait. It is because they're saboteurs, not controlling their emotions. It's not controlling the way they're thinking and speaking and things like that. And what we find is as soon as the person uses their antidote, immediately their dominant trait becomes effective, and they start to become much more effective communicators. We had a person within 2 weeks, very similar trait. She was a dominant communicator. She made $84,000 within the 2 weeks because she realized she was so much overwhelming them. People didn't know what she was saying. And I can tell you stories consistently with people selling once they understood their trait. I had a doc that has the exact same sequence as you, Louisa. He had less than 30% closing rate. Within 2 weeks, he went to 100%. I didn't believe him. I had to actually see the numbers because I didn't believe him. And he did. And because he was realizing he was overly giving. Imagine increasing your closing rate 10%, 20%. Imagine 70%. What would your income look like with that? So that makes sense, Louisa?
Absolutely. And here's the hard part, because I keep thinking, you come from over deliver, and how does over deliver end up backfiring to zero delivery? Because people are getting overwhelmed. So what do we do next?
Well, so that's what happens with yourself, is that you need to focus on you first. You have to realize, where are you located? Where is your head? How clear are you? These are all the things of a director saboteur, which I'm going to get into each and every one of them. But this is whereby you really understanding your saboteur. Now, what was frustrating for me is I took Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Rowe and all the greats, and I was finding myself frustrated because I couldn't get to where they're telling me I could go. And what I realized, and one of the things that deep voice said, you're not being taught something. What was I finding was that all that information I was getting from them, I was putting them on my dominant and my mediator traits, because that was subconsciously easier to do than my antidote. And just like a blind squirrel will find a nut once in a while, that information would hit my antidote. I would then become successful. But because I didn't know how I was successful, it would go down. And that was the hamster wheel of trying to figure it out. Now, when we teach people their antidote and how to use that information, whether they're a coach or whatever the case may be, now they can have repeatable success, because when you use your antidote, it's repeatable.
So if there's 3 saboteurs and then there's 6 people, how many antidotes are there?
There's only 3. So there's 1 for each person.
Okay.
And so what happens is when you start to release your personal professional power and you start to feel uncomfortable, that saboteur kicks in to protect you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not an idiot or a loser, all the hundreds of words we say to ourselves. You're just protecting yourself. So I don't care if you go in the corner, get a pillow, suck your thumb, get in a fetal position on the floor. I'm good with that. That's just protection. The question is, how long? How long will you be in your saboteur? But as soon as you use your antidote, which is the exact opposite to your saboteur, it is impossible to sabotage yourself, and you have to move forward into the growth phase. So instead of going out to be uncomfortable and then you shut down, come up and shut down, what happens is you come up, you get uncomfortable, you start to contract a little bit, but then while you really, truly deep down get understanding your saboteur, and then understand how to use the antidote in so many different ways, then you can go past your comfort zone, and then you'll contract a little bit more. And this is how you do. You never make a breakthrough. You just
love that. I mean, because I did, as soon as you said you've got to get to know yourself and do the work, I was like, well, we've all been doing the work. So I love the way you went further with that, because we've all been in the work. And it doesn't matter how many classes you take, if you're,
Yeah, I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to, because I have a 5-week live group coaching course called Transcendence 101 from Self-Sabotage to Self-Made Success. And we're having 2 classes this week. We won't have one until the end of next September. And so many people I had a couple of people go, I bought these other courses, I just can't get to them. What about, now you tell me to do yours? And I said, the reason why you want to do mine because I want to show you why you're not getting to the other ones. And we see this consistently. People not writing books, people are not doing certain things. Now they understand who they are. And within 5 weeks, they're now getting those things done. And now they're writing their books and completing them because now they fully understand why. Actually, if they actually finish the book, if they actually listen to what their mentor is saying and everything else, they would be successful. And that would be uncomfortable. Because there's really only 3 reasons why we sabotage ourselves. Would you like to hear those?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the first one is, write this down. These are the 3 over my 30 years of really looking at this, is that you had success before, then you lost it. So you had this success up here and then you lost it. What we find that if you actually got there again, subconsciously losing that would be more painful than ever getting to that point again. It's just like, anybody here ever had their heart ripped out or, know somebody who got a broken heart, right? Well, the reason why they never get to that point again, because if they actually lose it again and get hurt again, it's more painful. So they bring people of less quality of themselves. They bring people that are abusive, things like that, because they never want to get to that point. Same thing with your business. So think back as, when did you have success and did you lose it? How bad was it? And why did you never get there again? Because you don't want to do it all on a subconscious level, sometimes consciously, but usually subconscious. That's number 1. Number 2 is doing what's necessary. Write that down. Doing what's necessary. I have to be on this call at 6:30. Are you kidding me? I'm Eastern. It's 9:30. I got to be here. I got to write this book. I got to read this book. I got to now change jobs. I got to do this. I got to take this online course. Those are the things that you have to do in order to be successful. But you know what? There's a great new series on Netflix. I'm going to binge watch that, and then I'll get to that, which is not going to happen, is it? So you don't do what's necessary. And you never finish the courses, because if you did, then you would get to that point. And that might be one of the reasons why you never want to get there. The third one is more success equals more pain. More success equals more pain. Many people go, I want to double my business or my practice. And I go, no, you don't. If you did, you would have done it already. Because if you actually did, you'd have double to quadruple more of your pain, because now you'll never see your family. You'll be overwhelmed because you have no automation. You don't have enough staff. You haven't really set a pattern or a plan together because for that. And I've had many clients where they're like, the first thing I want to do with you is I want to really start getting my marketing going and all that. And I go, no, you don't. Your foundation is not even set. You bring more people in, you're going to be more overwhelmed. Now you're not going to supply those people with the value you need. And now you're going to have bad reviews and you're going to have a problem. Let's sit back. Let's reinforce. Let's make sure that you can handle what you're handling now. And then as you start to increase the people, can you handle that? So those are the 3. Well, you had success and you lost it, doing what it takes. And then 3, more pain equals more success. Does that resonate with anybody?
Absolutely.
Right? Some of you can have 1, 2, or all 3 that's stopping your success. And everything that's really behind all that is your saboteur. One thing I found out is your one saboteur creates all of your negative stuff. All of it. Why? You ever see the Domino Masters? When they push this one domino, it goes, right, and the last one hits. And let's say balloons are released. What's the last thing you say? The balloons. That's your imposter syndrome. That's your anxiety. That's your depression. That's your stress. That's everything you see what? Last. So what do? We take our coping methods and put what? We put them on the balloons, not the one domino. What's easier? Hold down the balloons and stop pushing on the damn domino. And that's your saboteur. When you push that, you go down the road of frustration. When you push the antidote, you go down the road of inspiration and motivation, because it's everlasting. Questions so far before I move any further with any of that?
So powerful. I would love if anybody wants, I know I've had all of your time, so I want to make sure everybody else gets to.
No questions? Yes, Fatima.
How do you activate your antidote like going saboteur?
That's a fantastic question. The question is how do I get to activate my antidote when my saboteur is so powerful? Because as we teaching that, by actually just using that one sentence, it does shift over, but there are things to help understand how to really utilize your antidote. Because when you actually use your antidote, it's impossible to sabotage yourself. You cannot sabotage yourself when you use your antidote. It's being consistent and understand why that works. But when you really understand how it's not just about the antidote, it's about how all three interact with each other. And when you understand all that when I do this, this happens, then you go, oh my God, this is what's happening. So in our course, we actually just piecemeal this until the 5th week. And then you start seeing all the results happening within the 1st or 2nd week. You start utilizing your antidotes. We give you things to do specifically to that antidote so that you can utilize it. So you are a what?
Supplier.
You're a supplier. So a supplier. So let's go over those three if no one has any. Oh, yes, David.
I think my question was, I think you were getting to it. It was basically, you touched upon it a little bit with Luisa before, but what does it look like in any given saboteur? And then, what does that actually look like for that situation? Right. What is, what's a good description of that so I can visualize it, see it,
sure,
and then be able to apply to what you were about to talk to with Fatima.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Fatima. Sorry. That's either way. I should have asked you. I've had people say Fatima and Fatima. Thanks for reminding me, David. So let's go over what each one is. So I'm just going to give you a basis of it, because if I give you too much, it's just going to explode your head. So we just kind of piecemeal it. So the director saboteur is a person that is scattered. They're all over the place. They'll get 99% done with something, stop and do something else, because when they don't have enough knowledge, they freeze. They don't have enough trust in themselves, and they hate details. Chaos is their friend because it actually stimulates their brain. So think about if it's that you or somebody you may be married to, maybe one of your kids, could be your mom, whomever the case may be. So they're all over the place. They don't like accountability. You do not tell them what to do, and they don't like to be responsible. Now, you can go to the other extreme, right? And now they become so hyper-focused because they waited till the last minute because they didn't want to do this. So now they're totally focused because they have a time distortion. What they think is going to take them 5 minutes. Hey, honey, I'll be out in 5 minutes. 5 hours later, they emerge. And now they're there for 2 days, really focused on it. And they go, oh, I finally got this task done. Then they realize that they didn't really organize their time well because they have all this other stuff they got to do. And then they go back and now they're scattered and all over the place. So director saboteurs will be this scatteredness and hyper-focus for the rest of your life. You will never, ever get rid of it. So here's a director saboteur. Okay, so Kevin and Louisa, both hands, and Dorinda, excuse me. Dorinda,
Can I ask a quick question?
No. So, okay. No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
That resonates so much with me, but I showed up as a supplier.
Beautiful. So glad you came up with that. So what we find is when people come into the course and they take the quiz and now they understand, they don't just get their saboteur, they get all three. So I remember a supplier saboteur. Her mediator was a director. And she says to me, I'm both. And I said, you can't be both. She goes, no, I am, because I'm scattered. I'm all over the place. And I told her, I said, okay, here's what happens. Because your saboteur, being a supplier, overly gives, you then become scattered because you overly gave and you stretched yourself too thin. Compared to a director saboteur like Louisa is scattered and then will devalue herself. You see what I'm saying? So yours can be very close because what you're going through right now, your mediator is trying to deal with. Okay. And the reason why you're not dealing with it, because you're not dealing with the one domino. You're dealing with the middle dominoes.
Okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Now, as I tell you about the other two, you're going to go, well, I have all three. Yes, you have all three, but one is more dominant as a saboteur. The other one is more dominant with the other two. Make sense so far? Questions so far with that? Okay. Now, we actually had to change our results page. I don't know those of you who took the quiz. The results page has been changed because we had a professor say to me, "You got to change the results page." And I said, "Why?" Because we gave a lot more information. And she said, "I thought that was it." Because I'm in the second week of your course. I'm blown away. I cannot believe how much of this is affecting my life. So we actually had to change it. So that's why we only gave you one sentence, because we don't want you to feel that that's the only thing you focus on and not get the rest of the benefit of it, right? So same thing with Fatima. Can you see where you're like, well, but I'm scattered. So it can get very confusing. But if you, once you know these sequences, it's just like this veil comes open over your head. So let's talk about Fatima, about the supplier saboteur, and Joe being one as well. Supplier saboteurs are people that are overly giving. They overly share. They oversupply because they feel that selfishness is equal to self-nourishment, and it's not. They think that they want to focus on everybody else because they don't want to focus on their own feelings because it's too painful. So they focus on everybody else, and that's what they feel they have to do. They become upset because when they overly give, they're expecting something back, and people that they brought into their life don't, because their generosity, people take advantage of their generosity and they get upset about it. Okay. Because they're really pissed off at themselves because they set this up. But then they'll go to the other extreme when they're upset and they go, I'm done with you, hell with you, forget about it. But then depending on the person's situation, they'll feel guilty and then they'll go back and overly give. So they'll go back and forth, and their challenge for the rest of their life is giving and taking. How to find the balance between giving and taking. Okay. So those of you that are supplier saboteurs, does that make sense?
Very articulate.
Right. Anybody that knows any supplier saboteurs that they may be married to, with their children, all that they can relate to? No? Okay. So that's what supplier saboteurs do. Now, when I say, Joe, you will never get rid of this because your saboteur is there to evolve you. When you're ready to get past that comfort zone and you don't, you're ready to evolve. So you go into protection. So if we didn't have the saboteur, we would be having a discussion how bored you are because everything that came so easily to you, you're like, oh yeah, Louisa, how did you do yesterday? Yeah, I made another billion. Oh, what'd you do? You'd be bored out of your mind. Some of you go, oh, I wouldn't wait. You'd be bored out of your mind because we're not here for everything to go well. We're here for what? The contrast. We're here for adversity, and that's how we evolve as human beings. The third one is the communicator saboteur. Communicator saboteurs are ones that don't express themselves. They keep to themselves. You have no idea what they're thinking or feeling. They're like great poker players. You don't ever want to be in a poker game with a communicator saboteur. You don't know what's happening with them. And what's happening is that the reason why they don't like to confront because they don't want to feel stupid or embarrassed. They'll give you a great text about this long or email this long because it'll take a few days to make sure it's correct because they have a hard time disconnecting. But verbally, they have a hard time doing that, so they don't express themselves. So you can really see that, are they snobbish or because they're not really giving you any emotion. Now they can go to the other extreme and just blast you because the volcano finally exploded, or they'll tell you you're an idiot under their breath. You still don't know what they're thinking, and then they'll go and disconnect from you. Anybody here a communicator saboteur?
It said that I was, but I'm not connecting so much to that now that we were describing it. And the question I had actually was when I was taking your test, I did have a lot of time, going back and forth between trying to pick the right answer at any given moment.
Here's the question. Did you read the directions? Did you go back?
I did. No, I read I did. I read the directions. I just, and I came from that spot. I mean, I maybe need to go back and read them again, but because I've been, I like you said, I think I'm all three. I just couldn't, I don't know if that's the dominant one. Although the one thing about writing an email or about writing something really long, I'm a very good writer, but I need to make it perfect. So I express exactly what I'm saying. And it does take me some time. So
right. But here's the question. When you were a kid, were you quiet? Or did you not really talk to people that much? Or were you
I was a shy kid. I didn't talk. It took me a while to warm up to that kind of stuff. Yeah.
What do you do, if I may ask?
I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer by day and a disc jockey by night. So
beautiful. So you are actually doing communication, right? Mm-hmm. Over the years, you have learned that, hey, I should use my antidote by expressing myself more. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it works. So you're probably very charismatic, right? People like you, things like that, right?
I would say yes. I mean, I'm
Right.
sure other people in this room might
Yeah, you
disagree,
could.
but I would say-
You are charismatic.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So what happens with that, you're not the communicator saboteur who's what's called a director, where they are very structured. They don't really talk that much. They're very structured. You're a charismatic. So people look at you and go, I don't think he's a communicator saboteur. But when you're upset or something's not going wrong, you shut.
I can
You
relate.
agree.
Yeah, I can. I don't necessarily know I'm doing it at the moment, but I think you're right.
Right. So you're like my daughter. My daughter, I would go, hey, Alexa, do you want to talk about it? No. Now, you're going to talk to me 3 days later. Why don't we just talk about it now and get over it? No, I would think, go ahead, know where you're going. And sometimes she'd figure out on her own, or she would then talk to me and she would go through that. Now she really understands that, might as well just express this and deal with this, because I saw a major shift when I actually got her to finally take my course. But when she got into that, she really understood why she was bullied in the past, and which I never knew she was. And we were helping her through that when she was younger, and show her how the bullying actually was a benefit for her. And she was able then to confront her bullies and shut them down and get an evolution out of that. But can you see where
Absolutely.
that can be some confusion? And that's why a lot of people I don't think it is. And sometimes people don't. They'll take it as if they are happening today. And that's why a lot of times we'll get that wrong. But if they do go back, they don't see it as well. But then if you ask somebody like their spouse, or if I had a client, and we'll see it. Or just having a conversation like this, now you're kind of allowing it to open up a little bit more.
Makes more sense. Thank you.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody understand? I'm not overdoing this, because in the beginning, when I used to do this, people were like, because this is just the tip of the iceberg of what I discovered. So this goes much, much deeper into personal, but also business. My business course, we probably give you 70% of stuff that no one else is teaching. So, but that's where those 3 saboteurs come into play. And then knowing the other 2 and how they interact is the key of really understanding who you are and why you do what you do. Question so far.
Where do you find the antidote?
So the antidote is given to you on your sheet after the quiz that you took. So it's right there. It says the antidote. So the antidote of a director saboteur is to become aware and follow through. Okay. They need to become aware of what's going on. They need to follow through, but they have a hard time. But that one sentence is so powerful. But when we dive deeper into it and really break it down to show them how to do it in certain ways and when to do it and when not to do it, then they're finishing tasks. They are now following through. They're moving forward. We had one of our clients that talked to me 30 minutes before they wanted to take the course. They were not doing good at all. And so he was a director saboteur. So as we're talking, we were giving him some information, and he took the course. Within the 3 weeks, his business turned around, because he really understood why he was not doing so well, because he was focusing on the balloons instead of the saboteur. And his business really started to grow. Supplier saboteurs. We had somebody that within 2 months, he was, I don't know if you'll see Franklin Cruz, he was flipping houses, and within 2 months, 10x his business. And within 2 years, now he's a developer making multi-million dollars, because he realized that in the beginning, he didn't feel that he deserved it. And that's what supplier saboteurs don't feel. So a supplier saboteur's antidote is to value themselves and others. Okay. They don't feel that they're valuing themselves. They don't feel validated. So what they do is they give away so much. That's why in a first date, they'll just talk to you because they want to just share. And sometimes they overshare. Or they're at a new client, and now what are they doing? They're giving stuff away for free, because they're trying to show the client how they're validated, but which actually causes them to devalue themselves. See the twist on that? Does that make sense, Joe and Fatima?
Yeah. In fact, now that you said that, I remember reading it, but of course, I ignored it because then I'd have to value myself. So I didn't even accept the fact that you gave the answer, the anecdote.
It actually happens. When I used to do this in our course, we actually have a digital workbook where we actually, when you type it in, it populates. It's all these formulas I created, and your life comes down to one sentence. And back then, they were filling it out instead of doing it digital. And I had a Parkinson patient, and as he was understanding this, immediately his hands started to shake and his jaw started to shake. And I'm just sitting back looking at this. And after he got done, I looked at him and said, "That was interesting." He goes, "Wow." And we realized that those were the things he was doing that actually stimulated the stress that sparked his Parkinson's to start to come out. We saw that with our autoimmune. That's why with autoimmune patients, I had very high success rates with autoimmune patients, because we were showing them why they're flaring up based on their saboteur. Like something would happen and then their saboteur would kick in, and then they would do what? They would numb themselves. They would eat, drink, smoke, or whatever the case may be. But then when we realized and they understood their antidote, when it happened again, they would use their antidote. We found two things would happen. They wouldn't use the numbing agents, or they would lessen it. So therefore, their flare-ups would not be so bad, and they could heal more effectively. Okay.
So if I took the test, let's say last year, and I've been doing all this work on myself, a year later, does the test change if, I really am just who I am?
It was really interesting. I was talking to somebody and they were talking about the DISC personality, some other personality tests. And they're like, every 6 months you got to retake it to see what's happening. I said, no, you take this once, that's it. You are always this saboteur. How do I know that? Because I've been doing this for 30 years and I see people 20 years later that when their stress comes out and they're like, I go, you're saboteur. Now, you may be working on yourself. So now, instead of sabotaging yourself 50% of the times, now you're sabotaging yourself 80 or 85. Now, excuse me, now you're not 85% of the time, but you're still doing it 5, 10, 15% because you have to, unless you're not taking any calculated risks to evolve yourself. You're always in protection or you're always in growth. There's only two things we do. We protect, we grow, we expand, we contract, we give and take. We're vibrational beings. And that's why I went for 30 years. I kept on saying it can't be this freaking simple. Does this kind of resonate with anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So
Yes.
when you really understand that, it really then like this light bulb goes off. We had a manager one time. I mean, we've had saved marriages. I mean, I've had the last person I had, they were ready to call the divorce attorney the next day. And I said, let me see what happens. So within that time, they realized it wasn't that they hated each other. They just were protecting themselves from each other. And once they understood why the other person was doing it, and then having their children come into play, and then understanding each of their children and how the whole dynamic work, same thing as you happen with your work with all your employees, then they're still married and they're doing great. I see that consistently. We had a manager come up to me at my workshop and said to me, my kid's always upstairs playing video games. I can't get them downstairs to interact with our family. So never met his son, asked him a few questions, ascertained his sequence, told him exactly what to do based on also his sequence. Within less than a week, his son was downstairs playing with the family. And within 2 months, their relationship skyrocketed because he realized he was the one pushing his son back in the room. His son was a communicator saboteur. He was making fun of him and things like that because that's just how he grew up. Once he shifted it, he then started to respect his son's own wishes and things like that. And the relationship really grew as well as his son. And then he realized he was doing the same thing in his business. And when he started shifting that, the business grew because your professional and your personal life are one. When you use your saboteur, you affect both at the exact same time. And when you use your antidote, both are affected at the exact same time. Now, I can keep on going on with different stories, but that's kind of the gist. And imagine when you don't close, who here has to close to get clients? When you don't close, it's your saboteur actually stopping you because it's more painful to close that person subconsciously, so you don't. Imagine knowing your potential client's saboteur. You'll know the resistance, and now you know how to drive them into your product or service if your product or service is right for them. Karma's a bitch. So this is just the tip of the iceberg of what you can do knowing what your saboteur is all about and how it interacts with everybody else.
Right. One of the things that yesterday when we were speaking for a minute, you were like, oh yeah, it's your director saboteur. It's okay. And just feeling seen and heard in that moment and knowing you're not being judged is so comforting. So I could see how this would be so magical in relationships because someone's not feeling like you're disrespecting them or you're doing something to them. They just understand this is just how you operate and have compassion around how to bring the other side of the antidote out.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up. First thing, we have a kickoff meeting, the first meeting, and everybody meets each other and they go through understanding my how to get to the course, because we only give them 1 hour a week of homework. That's it. That's all you do. 1 hour a week of homework. And then you just give one thing a week, just go about their business and personal life and focus on this one thing. So I tell them is that this is a no judgment zone. Now, why? Well, because if I am a person who's very structured, I can go to Louise and go, what is wrong with you? Why are you scattered? Just write a note. Just get one thing done. Are you stupid or something? So I can judge her. I can go to Joe and I can now take care of me and value me. Joe, man, this person is just degrading you. What is wrong with you, man? Do you love this abuse? Are you stupid? Right? Or I can go to David, and I can communicate well. David, just open your mouth a little bit. Just breathe out a little bit, move around, and just tell me what the hell you're thinking in. Are you kidding me? You freaking mute, right? So I can judge every one of you as much as you can judge me based on my saboteur. And once you understand it, conflicts can be taken care of very quickly. And with us, like David, and imagine listening to the judge and the lawyers and the jury, getting a case of like, oh my God, this person's this, and that. And now you can understand where they're at. I've had on workshops, there will be conflicts right then and there within 2-3 minutes. They're cracking up. They're like, oh my God, I do the same thing to my wife. So you'll see how that reaction. Questions? Everybody's quiet. Not everybody here is a communicator saboteur. Okay, Fatima.
Oh my gosh, my whole body is literally aligned with everything you're saying. And here's why. Because I've done so many of these, like the DISC profiler, and I always come out as a supporter, cheerleader, supplier. When I did the test, I was like, yeah, I know, I'm a supplier. But just talking to you, the breakthrough I just had was falling in love with the supplier. I hated doing the test because I'm like, yeah, I know what I am. But I never seen it in that light that my supplier protects me, but it sabotages me. And the antidote is just understanding my sabotager. And it feels like you can have control over it. Not
you are always
like you're
in control.
Done, right? Because it just, every single time I take a test, like, yes, I know I'm a supporter. Yes, I know I'm a cheerleader. Yes. And it's like, I'm doomed to be a supporter. But now it's like, wow, like, it's a whole different light. It's just, thank you for that. That's all I wanted to say.
My pleasure. Thank you. And that's what I'm trying to explain to you is that you always have control. See, everything is within you. You're Mother Teresa. You're the mass murderer. You're the ugly woman. You're the beautiful woman. You're the hateful woman. You are the loving woman. Everything's within you. It's up to you what you want to tap into to show yourself in the world. So I hear people, I lost my confidence. I said, no, you didn't. It's in you. You're just using the opposite side. So tap into that and you'll see it. Your outside world is you. When that person you hate is in your life, they are you. They're just showing up to show the part of you you hate. Once you understand that saboteur, that shifts. So your vibration changes and two things happen. They leave or they change because they still want to be in your world. And that's the difference between us and the other personality tests. We actually give you a solution. And it's not Z thing, 2, 3, 5. It's one thing, just one thing. And I'm telling you, no one's ever proven it wrong from.
So what is your wife's saboteur? What is your wife?
My wife is a communicator saboteur.
Interesting.
So, yes. So she was not getting promoted when I first met her. And the reason why is because she wasn't expressing her genius, her intelligence. So they didn't think she was that smart. As we started working with it, and David, well, David's not her sequence, but he might have a little bit of understanding it. To go up in front and speak in front of people would be at like, just, smack me and kill me. We got her to a point where she actually spoke to 100 people at work. And that allowed her to shift. And then we were able to help her understand that there is not going to promote her. This manager just had it out for her. So she actually disconnected after 10 years, I think, from the same job. For a communicator saboteur to do that, right, David, it's unusual. But because she knew she had to disconnect and then go to another job, and that didn't work out well, and went to another, but she kept on being promoted. And now she's making more money than she's ever made before because she never realized that she was in protection.
Did you have this already in your life when you met her? Did you know what saboteur she was as you guys were dating? How has this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have we have 6 kids. She has 4, I have 2. We have 6 kids together. We have an unconditional love together. We don't fight. It was really funny. One of her kids in front of my kids, when we were like, well, not fighting is not healthy. And I said, well, the reason why, because you always saw me having major problems with your mom, right? You think that's normal. And then he said, yeah, basically our discussion is their fight. So, at times we have a little bit here and there, but then we'll immediately, we don't go to bed angry. We have a little thing like one of these, and we start cracking up, and then we admit it because we understand at that point. And we'll kid, and she'll come out and go, what's wrong with you? And I go, I'm a director saboteur. Any other questions? And she started cracking up because she just went back to the old way of her. And then she realized she did that because we're always going to go back to us, the old way, and which one works better. Yes.
I have a question. So is this something that is taught like from a child, or is this something you were born with?
You're actually born with it. I have games where we actually will look at different characters on TV, and I'll know what their sequence is and all that. You can actually see puppies or cats very similar to the same sequence. You ever think about, have anybody have dogs here? You ever have a dog that's kind of like just kind of shy, just sits around? One's like freaking all over the place. Like here, they go over here, they go there, they go over there. The other one is just always loving and doving to you. Yeah. Because the reason why I know this, because it's a law that I discovered. I call it Life's One Law. My book is called Life's One Law, Nature's Blueprint for Repeatable Success. I actually discovered 6 steps that nature uses to come back from her storm. We have the same 6 steps, and those 6 steps can solve any business or personal problem, guaranteed. And when I looked at the steps, I took the opposite steps and I put them together. And that's how I came up with the 3 basic principles of the universe called the director, the supplier, and the communicator. Everything in the entire universe is just these 3 things. And then I realized that the principles were really traits when it came to us. So I just said, instead of 3 principles, were the 3 traits. So I can prove all this throughout, from the atoms to the galaxies. I can actually prove all that. That's why I know this works. I'm sorry?
I remember reading one of your stories about the seasons and about how the tree doesn't get disturbed when the leaves fall out. And I know you've given us a tremendous amount, but would you mind giving us a little bit of information on the seasons? And it's a lot, and it's very detailed, but it was very powerful.
So I don't talk about the seasons. You probably see all my videos. I don't talk about it because I was told way back when, don't, because it's like mind-blowing to people can't really get their grasp. So let's just focus on the saboteur. That's why when I first started this 5-week online course, it was actually a beta test of 12 weeks. And after the people that were in it, after the 10th week, they're like, we're done. You have like 2-3 courses here. So that's where I went out to the 5 weeks. And then I have then it's 201, which is a business course. You have to take 101, focus on you, and then you can take 201, focuses on your business. Because, oh, by the way, your own business has its own inborn sabotage and trait and antidote. So we show you how you actually subconsciously sabotage your business as well as your staff by using their saboteur and enhancing the business's saboteur. And when you use your antidote to the business's antidote, it's like a valve of success that kicks in. So that was another tangent that me just went into. So I actually discovered 6 seasons. They're not 4, they're actually 6. And those are the 6 things that we go through. So in the book, we actually go over that briefly, showing you that each step has particular questions you can go over. And once you understand that step, you go to the next step. And that's when I took the opposite seasons. And that's how I actually was able to discover the 3 basic principles of the universe.
What's the name of the book?
Life's one. You can actually go onto my website.
Okay.
I'll put it in and then you can do is, because if you go, it's a hard time looking for it on Amazon, but you can go to dragrios.com. And actually, I should put HTTP.
Could you
And
also
then you can actually get a gift if you purchase it through my website.
Why do you need to give a gift? Don't you think it's valuable enough without giving something away?
So you're a business person, right? So the reason why I do that is why? Anybody knows why I do a gift?
You're insecure about somebody.
No, I get their email.
Oh, okay.
So they go directly
All right, okay.
to Amazon. I don't get their information.
Okay.
So now I get their information. See?
brilliant?
All right. I was being just a Brooklyn wise guy for a second.
Oh, I know that. But I'm glad you asked, because that's a great question. I hope that helped somebody with that. That's why you always have a tripwire, or sometimes you give something away for free of value. That's why I do my quiz.
No, absolutely.
Philip, I know you had shared about your courses coming up. Would you mind putting in the link for anyone else who's interested in signing up?
Sure.
I know you're a director saboteur, but it is your course. I'm sure you have it right there. I could have prepared this, but I am a director saboteur.
No. So basically, do you want me to just review real quick about
please.
it? Okay. Everybody good with that? I want to make sure everybody's good with that. So the first day, we have one tomorrow, 2:30 Eastern, and Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern. And it's 5 weeks. So the first day we get on kickoff meeting, everybody meets each other, and then they go through understand the videos, because there's no one else teaching this. So if you really want to learn something totally new, this is the course. So once that happens, they understand that. We then go into the next week, and the next week is about an hour and a half, 2 hours at the most. I don't go past 2 hours, and it's interactive. It's just like this, where you can ask me questions. It's just like me just talking and you're like going to sleep. It's an interaction, because once I understand your sequence, so let's say Louisa takes the course, I know her sequence. When she asks a question, I'm not going to say, how does that make you feel, Louisa? I'm going to go, okay, you're this, and this, boom, 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 boom. And you're going to go on a subconscious level, oh, wow, that's exactly what I need. And then you try it and it works. So that's how, again, when like here, there's only 6 people here. Right. So then what happens is then you go, oh, that's another director saboteur. That makes sense. Or this, or my God, that's my wife. That's my kid. Now you start to understand the people around you through the people that are in the group. So once that occurs, that's the first week. So we dive deeply into the inborn sabotage and trait and antidote. I don't know if those of you who know Bill Walsh from Power Team, when I gave Bill his antidote and sequence, within an hour, he was on stage using his antidote and saw a major shift. He couldn't believe the difference in how his speak was changed by just using his antidote. Same thing with Jack Canfield and all that. But once you understand that, then the second week, we dive deeply into the personality sequence. Once you understand, so we had a coach one time, and this was great. Coaches here? Anybody here is a coach? Okay. I love working with coaches and also talking with coaches, because I see a shift with them sometimes, and they feel like, I had one just recently, a doctor. She was like, I feel ashamed that I actually come to you. And I said, there's nothing wrong with your coaching. You're a great coach. You're just so close to yourself. I'm going to help you get and see this. And then you take all your genius and put it on the antidote instead of the dominant trait. Okay, so we had a coach one time not doing great with her husband. Within 5 weeks, the relationship really grew, because not only did she understood her sequence, she understood his, but he never knew she was taking the course. So we can actually show you how to shift others by understanding yourself and them. Third week, it's about the balloons, about the coping method we talk about. You'll see why and how things are, you're using coping methods on the wrong trait. The fourth week, we dive deeply into one subconscious word. You use one subconscious word that stops all your goals. You stopped it in the past, or stopping it now, and it's stopping it for the rest of your life. Might be a good word to know. Once you understand this one word, we give you 5 steps to offset that word. So you have to achieve your goals. We actually prove it to you. And then week 5, we show you how well you've transcended over the 5 weeks. And then we give you a plan of action. Now, not only do you see me once a week, you have access to me every day if you want to via email. You have access to my inner circle. And then I have 2 small ebooks that I wrote that are specific for your antidotes. And then the best part of all of this is that within 2 weeks, if you feel this is not right for you, you get 100% of your money back. Now, I warn every one of you here, no one asks for their money back because everybody makes a major breakthrough the first or second week. And then we give a percentage to our veterans. So the course is $997. Or that is hard for people. We do a $247 payment program for 6 months. So we actually give you a half a year to pay for this, and which is very helpful for a lot of people. So that's the course. Questions with that? Imagine knowing that one word, Fatima, right? You could think you're blown away here. Imagine knowing that, right? Questions?
Absolutely.
Is everyone's word different? Does everybody have their own word that they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's what the key is, like, oh my God. And that's what the key, they're looking at that word going, oh my goodness, now I see it. And, that's why we don't just overwhelm you. We give you a little bit here, then it builds on so nicely. By the time of the 4th and 5th week, especially the 3rd week, it really opens up. And by the 5th week, we're having people you saw the testimonials on the page. Those are the things that we get. And on that page is multimillionaires down to startups.
But
Questions?
does it cycle, or is it like you just sign up and you join? Is it consistent? I mean, like, do you have to wait to join the class if you don't get in right now? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
So I treat everything like a doctor-patient relationship. Let's say you and I had just a 30-minute conversation. No one will ever know that you and I had a conversation. I just keep that between me. I don't go, hey, Louisa, yeah, Fatima and I had a conversation. I don't do that. So when you get on to Wednesday, only the Wednesday group gets access to Wednesday. No one else can come in and see it because it creates a nice little safe space for everybody. And we record every week so that you can go back. If you missed one, you can go back, and everybody that does that can get back on it. But yeah, it's Wednesday and Thursday. We have one every 5, 6, 7 weeks. So because it's near the end of July, August is taken up. So we'll probably do it near the end of September. So probably a couple of months from now. And then from there, I'll do so depending on what we have, we may do my 201. That'll be ending soon. And then we'll do another 3 months for the business end of it as well. So those are the 2 courses that I mainly focus on.
Nice. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And everything I do is guaranteed. Even workshops, I can do an 8-hour workshop for people, whatever the case may be. And we curtail it to that corporation.
Is there like a specific amount of people per class? Is there a cap? Is it huge?
No, actually, we're looking. I don't even know what the count is right now. We've had a lot of people come in. We have probably around 15, 20, which is nothing. And the reason why I know it's nothing, I did an 8-hour course for a $150 million company. There were 26 countries. We had 4 interpreters. This was during the end of COVID. There was 40 people with 100 people from all around the world. And with like 200 people, it worked really, really well. We had really great strides with a lot of people because we had a once a month for 2 months, and people would come back and ask some questions, and people were just making major breakthroughs in that end of it. So I know I can do 300, 400, 500 people because, again, I'm only talking to how many people?
6.
6. So if I'm talking to Louisa and you know your sequence, and let's say Brian and Lil is the same sequence. As I'm helping Louisa, he's getting also the exact same help. And then he's relating to that. So that's what we found. And that's why also I've done 6 or 7 when I started doing this. And I had to pull things like here, talk to me. questions. So now I know if I have a bigger audience, not too many people ask as many questions, but when the people do, it does make a major breakthrough for them. So that's why it's not really that. And then plus, if you have a personal problem, guess what do? You email me. And when you email me, that never is said in the group. It's only if you say it. That's just between us. So that's how I roll.
I love it. I would love to hear what everyone's takeaway is from tonight. Like, what was your big wow tonight? So, Dorinda, you're the first on my screen. What is your big take?
Who knows Carteret? No, I'm only joking.
That's it. I'm done.
That's
Have a
it.
good
We're
night.
out.
That's
No.
all we need. Don't worry about
It's
it.
all good. It's all good. I'll go back to talking like this. It's all great.
Yeah, we'll get you going. Your friends are going to go, where were you? Okay.
No, but to actually know certain things on who our saboteur is. I mean, we're our saboteur, but like to pinpoint it is so mind-blowing to me, because I never knew. I knew I had a saboteur. We all know this if we're, been doing any kind of work, but I just never knew what my saboteur was or who my saboteur was, or there was something you can pinpoint. And that's just mind-blowing to me.
Oh, thank you. And let alone knowing how to switch it off.
Yeah.
Immediately. This is not like, immediately it can be changed. I've had people call me an hour and a half later, go, I can't want to move my patients. I can't believe this is shifting this quick.
Yeah.
I know it sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? Because I remember a marketer tell me one time, you shouldn't say 100%. You should say like 98, 99%. People believe you more. And I said, why would I lie to them? Never hired the marketer again. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to, yeah.
Fatima, we heard yours, but I want to hear, like, what is your...
Well, my takeaway is really like I made a call him to figure out. I know you didn't get in the business aspect, but I'm starting to see how my saboteur really affects my business. Like stuff was coming through, like the devaluing, the not being confident. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And to know that there's an antidote for that, and that I can actually keep it going and be consistent, not high and then all of a sudden drop and high and drop, because I keep doing that. I'm always on this roller coaster.
Yeah.
And to know that I can stay on a path and be consistent, it's really exciting.
And guaranteed. That's the difference.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed it's going to work. And we had a supplier saboteur. She had, within the first week, even before the first week, when she talked with me, she started using just the saboteur, the value herself. She got a $250,000 contract, quote, out of nowhere. She says, this does this. I can't wait to take the course. And in the course, she really understood the fractures that were in her business made from her, and how to start shifting it, and then the business started to take off. So yeah, that you'll see. Even though you're dealing with you may go, hey, I'm having this situation with my business partner. I'm having a problem with this. We've had business partners where I said, you guys got to split. And when they split, they actually became friends again because they understood why the other person did what they did. And it was an amicable split. And then we had partners that were going to split, but now they're held together again because they understood why the other person wasn't doing what they were doing, and because they were in the wrong roles.
Now that you mention that, and this is something that Lisa and I have always talked about, and I don't know if it's because of her director and my supplier, but we always talk about how we've always yearned to have partners, business partners. We love working with people, but for me, it's never worked out. It's always been like, dang it, so I love that you brought that up.
Philip, I realize what time it is, and I want to be really respectful of your time.
Go for it.
Is it okay that we
Let's
go
just
through?
go for it. I talked to my wife earlier. The reason why is I don't even know what time it is. I get up at 4:35 because I love to get my thing going. And it was from Jack Canfield. He once told me, he said he read a book called, I forget the name of it. And this guy interviewed billionaires. And the one thing they had in common was they woke up between 4:30 and 5, meditated, and worked out. So then I said, let's do it. And of course, I had some challenges, but by using my antidote, I was able to do it. And now pretty much consistent about 90% of the time. Yes,
Like-
Kevin.
Yeah, so I'm a director saboteur. That's why I get along so well with Louisa as well. So
Party, man.
I bought your book while we're talking. I'm gonna be offline for a couple of weeks on vacation. So, and I'm gonna have no connectivity. So I'm gonna probably jump in on September. Do I just keep looking at your website to see those dates?
You know the best thing to do? Why don't you email me? Email me at support@dragrios.com. I'll put that in the chat. And let me know you're interested. We'll put you on the waiting list. And
You do that for me as well?
who is that?
David, I'd like to, I mean,
Yeah.
if I can have a class with Kevin and you at the same time, oh my God.
Hey, what's better than that?
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
So-
can I join in on the party?
It is going to be the mastermind party. So, Phillip, I do have to show off my team. By the way, we all wake up early in the morning and meditate, journal, and do our intentions and all our work every morning together. Just so I can.
Together. Wow, that's awesome.
So we have a power team, and
Beautiful.
I just have to show off our team.
I think it's a very powerful team here. I'm so happy that I'm on here. Appreciate you
Yeah,
guys.
and I wish I had more time to pick your brain because I took that wonderful vaccine and had a wonderful reaction to it. So it caused thyroid and autoimmune disease, things like that. So that's what I'm dealing with right now. So, but
Do me a favor, email me and put that in there.
okay,
I'll do is I'll recommend a couple of books. These people they taught me, and at least you get that. And or I'll do one better for you. Send me your zip code, because I have people all around the country. Because when I have the difference why people like to work with me, not only because I'm a consultant, I'm a doctor, and I've had so many people. The reason why they're not doing what they're doing is because of their habits through health, and they're not doing well, and we help them get better, and therefore their business increases. I'll find a functional medicine doc for you. I'll vet them for you. I'll be happy to do that for you.
okay.
Just got to give me got to give me till like Friday, because I got to get through these next couple of days.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah, but I'll
I've
be able
got
to
a
do that
guy
for
I've been working with a little bit right now. So I
Okay.
think he's getting me like Apex Energetics and other
Oh,
things like
perfect.
that. So,
I use
Yeah.
Apex.
Yeah.
Yep. I used to use, but yeah, definitely. All right. So then you're in good hands then. So if you ever want a second opinion and it's not working as well as you like it to, then I'm here for you.
all right, cool. Thank you.
My pleasure. Anybody else? Questions, answers? Anybody here looking to possibly doing this week, the course? Okay. No, I'm just asking because a lot of people sometimes they can't make it's like this week. It's okay to miss the kickoff meeting. Then we can always have them come back the next week. So that's why some people think it's not, they can't make it this week. They're going to miss out, but they can do that.
I love it. Yeah, I haven't seen my children in 3 weeks. They're coming back Friday, and once school starts, I think we can all hop in, and if September works,
Yeah.
because everybody will be back at school, and we could be all about the team.
Anybody have any questions at all? Any challenges or something like that they want to talk about? If not, don't be shy.
I'm buying
I'll
the
make
book.
something up. I'll make something up. It'll sound really good. So that's what I've been doing all night. So I'm sorry, David.
I said I was buying the book now as we speak as well.
Oh,
So
thank
that's
you.
my challenge is to do this and listen and communicate at the same time. So
Yeah. Start doing the antidote for 3 days and you'll start seeing a shift 3 days or less. It's usually within 3 days.
And you said the antidote is in the book as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's more in the back. The book was more about the blueprint when I first started than the saboteur because I was focusing on the seasons. The only reason why I wrote the book because, when I was seeing really great results with my patients, my business owners who were my patients were making major breakthroughs in business, and I never thought about using it in business. And so I started getting referrals all around the world. And then I said, well, let me put this in. I wrote the book in order to get my stuff out there, as well as become a best-selling author. So you get some type of authority as well. So you get podcasts and all that stuff. So I wrote it in a couple of weeks. And so I brought it out. And then 5 years later, I closed my practice and I do this full time.
This was gold. So powerful. I know we're all in the work, but this is so different than what we hear and learn. And that's really why I was overjoyed when you said yes, because it's such a contribution to us tonight. And it was so generous. And
thank you. Thank you so much.
so grateful.
So am I. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and asking great questions. And I look forward to seeing you guys, some of you in September. That'd be great. We'll have a party.
Yes, and yes. Thank you, Phillip, so much.